Shalom, shalom. This is Davin coming at y'all with the word. And today's topic is going to be about the Feast of Dedication. All right, the dedication of the altar that our forefathers kept when they took the altar back from the Grecians, and Yahawah gave them good success. All right, so we're gonna get right into it. All right, so this is First Maccabees chapter 1. We're gonna start right at the beginning. First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, and he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. All right. Now we're talking about Alexander the Great. Okay, this is when he started his reign, and he was reigning over everything from 330 BC to 476 BC. This is when that reign started. This is when the Alexander Achaemenid started. This is when his empire started. All right, this is verse 2. And made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. All right. So if you see about the Persians and the Medes, that's right there. This is mentioned in the book of Daniel. You know, this is mentioned before Alexander was even born. It was prophesied by our prophets that this king will raise up, and he will cause all the lands speak Greek. That's why you have the Hellenistic period that took place in between 330 and 476 BC. 330 BC to 476 AD. It took place at that time because that's when, Alexander, even when he died, he divided his loot, amongst all the people, which we're about to get into. And that's when the empire started and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a strong, mighty host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. All right. So we're just going into that. So when he died, he divided his spoils, among his servants. All right. And his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. All right. So this is when the white man really got to his high point. All right. That's the best. I mean, that's the best Esau's ever gonna get. I mean, Alexander, that's it. It started with him, and that was the greatest that they're ever gonna get. Point blank, period. That's the greatest. And that's when he started to rule. In Deuteronomy 28, it says that the enemy, paraphrasing, will get above thee very high. All right. But now with us coming to this truth, his kingdom's starting to come down. All right. So this is a declaration of, we're going into Antiochus Epiphanes. All right. And it says, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king. All right. So Epiphanes means madman. All right. To go into that, like something that they called him, but he obtained his kingdom. He was able to obtain the kingdom and bear rule. The king who had been an hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the Greeks. All right. All right. So in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. All right. This is just wicked Negroes, wicked Negroes. That's what it is. So it says, then certain of the people were so forward therein that they went to the king and gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So there's just that person. Everybody's worshiping the Most High, and they're doing their thing, because what happened is during this reign, that was going on. During this reign that was going on, the Jews, Israel, was still doing their thing. All right, if you look at the history, when Alexander was ruling, he let the Israel kind of do their thing. He was ruling the whole world, but he's like, I'm not gonna force. I'm gonna let them kind of do their thing and whatever. So this is the start of people, people, saying that, we're gonna have the Jews, because they've always been to this side. They've always been those people who were just, they kind of always did their own thing. We had our own holidays, just like in right now. We had Christmas, we had Thanksgiving, we had the things we were doing. But, the Jews, they always kept Passover, Feast of Lights, dedication. They always did their own thing. But now we're tired of looking at them and, they all set apart from us. They should join us what we're doing. We took over. We're ruling now. They should come and do what we're doing. And this is, there's always that person there. Hey, I'm gung-ho about it. He couldn't wait to just rebel, and that's wicked. All right? Don't be that guy. Whereupon they built a place. This is verse 14. Whereupon they built a place. All right. Let me get back at it. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the custom of the heathen. All right. So there's a lot of lewd practices that they did, working out that, man, it was real bad. It's homosexuality to a high degree, all types of wickedness. If you look into it, what was going on in those times, and made themselves circumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. And when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion of two realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude and chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. And they got the strong cities of the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after Antiochus had smoten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Israel with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took the golden altar and the candlestick thereof and all the vessels. All right. So this is it's the 143rd year. Okay. He entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof. All right. So what this is going into is what historians will call the Zeus manifest, Zeus made manifest, which took place in 169 BC. All right. This is when that happened, and this is also prophesied, and maybe going into that in Daniel, it was prophesied by Daniel that this would happen. Okay. And the table of the showbread and the pouring vessels and the veils and the censer of gold and the veil and the crown and the golden ornaments. These are the precious things of the temple, all right, of the tabernacle of the congregation, all right, the crown, the gold, the veils, into the holies of holies. I mean, he desecrated the whole altar where the fire burned. Okay, this is a wicked thing. And the temple and all which he pulled thereof. He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasure which he found. And he had taken all away. He went into his own land, having made a great massacre, and spoken very proudly. Therefore there was a great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were, so that the princes and the elders mourned, the virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of woman was changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collectors of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude. And spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city, and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel. All right, that's Esau right there. Forked tongue. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. Then built they the city of David with a great strong wall and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. They stored it also with armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there. And so they became a sore snare. And we're just going to read into it. We're going to read the story. We're going to read it. We're going to go into the story. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. All right? This is talking about our place, our land, our temple. Right? When it's talking about her, that's what it's talking about. Because she was supposed to bear us, okay? Zion, the mother of us all. But now it's inhabited by strangers. That's going into. And had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. All right. They said, just like I was going into before, that's what they wanted to happen. All right. They wanted a construct of one religion, of one faith, everybody doing the same thing. They didn't want Israel over here worshiping the Most High, worshiping Yahawah, keeping to our ways, keeping to our laws, statutes, and commandments. They didn't want that. And one should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and polluted the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrificed swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. Man, it's wicked. And wherefore and whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. In the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, every one that forsook the law. And so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for succor. Now the 15th day of the month, Casalú, in the 145th year, they set up abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. All right. And burn incense at the doors of the houses and in the streets. Okay. Wow. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire. And whosoever was found with any of the book of the testament, or in any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death. And this is all out terror breaking loose out here. All right, this is all manner of wickedness going on. All right, just imagine in these times, man, the craziness that's going to happen right now. You know, are we built for times like these? These is crazy. You know, they got rid of the basically the Bible. You know, let's deal with just that right there. They got rid of the Bible, the scriptures. You know, that's why we got to hide the scriptures in our heart, in our soul, because these things were actually going on. That same white man, all right, because these Greek, they were Edomites. All right, and then this is verse 58. Thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the cities. Now the 25th day of the month they did sacrifice upon now the 25th day of the month they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God. All right. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. All right. Now I want to go on this real quick on the 59 right here, verse 59, on the 29th day of the month, right? Okay, so let's look at this real quick. Let's look at this. Let's see. All right, that's this month right here. All right, so that's the ninth day, the 25th day of the month, right? All right, so they sacrificed on an idol altar, all right, on that same day. Okay, so this is around that time, but they sacrificed an idol altar. So what they do now is, since the calendar changed, they do it on December 25th, which is Christmas, which is the pagan holiday. All right, now the taking over of everything happened also on 9/25, but on our actual calendar, when we took over. So it's real important to understand that how these things happen at the same time and around the same time. Okay, because on 9/25 also is when we took the place back and we dedicated the altar to Yahawah, and that place was remembered. All right, so it's real important to understand that. And to understand the days that we keep, the times that we celebrate, and what God that we're serving. Because if we can't keep these wicked feast days, because this is their origin right here. This type of wickedness right here. Okay, so just thought I'd bring that out. And this is verse 61. And they hanged the infants about their necks, and rifled their houses, and slew them that had circumcised them. Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died, and there was very great wrath upon Israel. All right. Now let's see how the Maccabees responded to all this. Okay, let's get verse 2. We're just going to read through. In those days arose Matthias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Joarib, from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons, Johanan called Cadiz, Simon called Thasi, Judas, who was called Maccabeus, Eleazar called Avaran, and Jonathan, whose surname was Alphas. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, Woe is me! Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers. Her temple is become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets, her young men with the sword of the enemy. That nation hath not had a part in her kingdom, and gotten of her spoils. All her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman she is become a bondslave. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer? Then Matthias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourn very sore. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city Modin to make them sacrifices. And when many of the Israelites came unto them, Matthias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Matthias, On this wise, thou art a ruler, and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now therefore, come thou first, and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold, and many rewards. Matthias answered and spoke with a loud voice, Though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandment, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. God forbid that we should forsake the law and ordinances. All right, that's our forefathers saying that. He said, no, no, no. He said no. All right. So some of our people wasn't with all that. All right, and our forefathers stood bold in those situations, in those crucial times. We will not hearken to the king's words. Verse 22, to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left. Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. Which thing, when Matthias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. Also the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. That's bold. That's, whew, that's bold. Wow. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of God, like as Phinehas did unto Zambri, the son of Salom. And Matthias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. Now, that's a Levite right there. You know, that's the way the sons of Aaron, that's the way they roll. All right. Not regarding mother, father, sister, not nobody. They kept the law. All right. No matter what, they kept the statutes and commandments. And they were zealous unto the Most High. And the Most High called them to be priests. All right. Now we're a kingdom of priests, but Levi, he had a certain office, you know, at this time. And he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there. But they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them. Now when it was told the king's servant and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were gone down into the secret places of the wilderness, they pursued after them in great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. And they said unto them, let that which ye have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live. But they said, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day. So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the place where they lay hid, but said, let us die all in our innocency. Heaven and earth will testify for us, and ye put us to death wrongfully. All right, so what's going on right now is this is the Sabbath day. And, you know, Esau being the lying, deceiving serpent that he is, he went and he came to our people when it was a Sabbath day. And our people kept the Sabbath day, and they didn't even fight back. And they slew all of them. They murdered them. And they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath and slew them with their wives and children and their cattle to the number of 1,000 people. Now when Matthias and his friends understood thereof, they mourned for them right sore. And one of them said to another, If we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. Wow. Now, that time therefore they decreed, saying, Whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places. All right. So this is when you kind of put in, this, it was been said the Sabbath was made for us. So they did die honorable death, but it was with them like, we got to fight for our people. All right. And that's pretty much the point that they were having, because they didn't want to be rooted out. Then came there unto him a company of Sidonians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. Also all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a stay unto them. And they joined their forces, and smote sinful men in their anger, and wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to the heathen for succor. Then Matthias and his friends went round about, and pulled down the altars. And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. They pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hand. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles, and out of the hand of the kings, neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. Now when the time drew near that Matthias should die, he said unto his sons, Now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. Now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. Yeah, that's a good father right there, raising his kids in the law. They were probably raised. They never even probably knew about Christmas at a young age. They only knew the feast days, keeping the Feast of Tabernacles, loving your brother. They were taught these things at a young age, most likely. All right, that's a beautiful thing. Call to remembrance the acts of your fathers. Our fathers did in their times. All right, and they were strong, they were powerful. So shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name. Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness? Joseph in the time of his distress kept the commandment, and was made Lord of Egypt. Phinehas our father, in being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. All right. It says Jesus, for fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel. Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land. David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. Elias, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven. Ananias, Azarias, and Mesiel, by believing, were saved out of the flame. Daniel, for his innocency, was delivered from the mouth of lions. And thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. So you got to gird yourself. You got to believe in believe and look on the tales and the testimony of your forefathers. All right? Walk in faith and in truth. All right? This is verse 62. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms. Today he shall be lifted up, and tomorrow he shall not be found, because he is returned into his dust, and his thought is come to nothing. All right? So when you do the things of the Most High, because the Most High is going to last forever, he has an everlasting name, and his name goes into the kingdom to come. All right, so those who hold to the Most High, those who trust the Most High, are going to have an everlasting name. People that you hear about today, they're not going to be remembered in the kingdom to come. No one's going to say, hey, I remember you. You were, that dancer, that singer. I remember you used to write good, or you used to do this. No one's going to remember. No one's know, who are you? No one's going to know. You're not going to have an everlasting name. It's going to be forgotten. Only things that are, paraphrasing, only things that are eternal are going to last forever. All right? So he taught his sons to seek eternal treasures and put their heart and spirit on eternal treasures rather than temporary treasures. All right? So that's what we got to do. And everything give thanks. Wherefore ye, my sons, be valiant and show yourselves men in the behalf of the law, for by it shall ye obtain glory. And behold, I know that your brother Simon is a man of counsel. Give ear unto him always. He shall be a father unto you. As for Judas Maccabeus, he hath been mighty and strong, even from his youth. Let him be your captain, and fight the battle of the people. Take also unto you all those that deserve the law, and avenge ye the wrong of your people. Recompense fully the heathen, and take heed to the commandments of the law. So he blessed them, and was gathered to his fathers. And he died in the 146th year. And his sons buried him in the sepulchres of his fathers at Modin. And all Israel made great lamentation for him. All right. Now, well, let's get what happens next. And when the nations round about that heard the altar was built, and the sanctuary renewed as before, it displeased them very much. All right. Wherefore they thought to destroy the generation of Jacob that was among them, and thereupon they began to slay and destroy the people. Now, just getting the people that they were fighting against were Esau. It says, then Judas fought against the children of Esau in Idumea at Arabatin, because they besieged Gael. He gave them a great overthrow, and abated their courage, and took their spoils. Also, he remembered the injury of the children of Bien, who had been a snare and an offense unto the people, and that they lay in wait for them in the ways. All right. He shut them up, therefore, in the towers, and encamped against them, and destroyed them utterly, and burned the towers of the place with fire, and all that was therein. Afterwards he passed over the children of Ammon, where he found a mighty power, and much people, with Timotheus their captain. So he fought many battles with them, till at length they were discomfited before him, and he smote them. And when he had taken Jazar with the towns belonging thereto, he returned into Judea. Then the heathen that were at Gilad assembled themselves together against the Israelites that were in their quarters to destroy them. But they fled to the fortress of Dathemah, and sent letters unto Judas and his brethren, the heathen that are round about us are assembled together against us to destroy us. And they are preparing to come and take the fortress whereupon we are fled, Timotheus being captain of their host. Come now therefore and deliver us from their hand, for many of us are slain, yea, all their brethren were in the places of Tobi, are put to death. Their wives and their children also they have carried away captive, and borne away their stuff, and they have destroyed there about 1,000 men. While these letters were yet reading, behold, there came other messengers from Galilee with their clothes rent, who reported on this wise, and said, They of Ptolemais and of Tyre and Zidon and all Galilee of the Gentiles are assembled together against us to consume us. And when Judas and the people heard these words, there assembled a great congregation together to consult what they should do for their brethren that were in trouble and assaulted of them. Then said Judas unto Simon his brother, Choose thee out men, and go and deliver thy brethren that are in Galilee. For I and Jonathan my brother will go into the country of Gilead. So he left Joseph the son of Zacharias and Azarias, captain of the people, with the remnant of the host in Judea to keep it, upon whom he gave commandments, saying, Take ye the charge of this people, and see that they make not war against the heathen until the time that we come again. Now unto Simon were given 3,000 men to go into Galilee, and unto Judas 8,000 men for the country of Gilead. Then went Simon into Galilee, where he fought many battles with the heathen, so that the heathen were discomfited by him. And he pursued them unto the gate of Ptolemais, and there were slain of the heathen about 3,000 men, whose spoils he took. And those that were in Galilee and Arbatis, with their wives and their children, and all that they had, took he away with him, and brought them into Judea with great joy. Judas Maccabeus also and his brethren Jonathan went over Jordan and traveled 3 days' journey in the wilderness. And they met there the Bathites, who came unto them in a peaceable manner, and told them everything that had happened to their brethren in the land of Gilead, and how that many of them were shut up in Bosor, and Alima, Casphor, Maked, and Carneum. All these cities are strong and great, and that they were shut up in the rest of the cities of the country of Gilead, and that against tomorrow they had appointed to bring their host against the forts, and to take them and to destroy them all in one day. Hereupon Judas and his host turned. Now you got to picture the battle going on. Okay, the swords, the war going on. It's actually happening. Okay, people are dying. People are going to war. People are fighting for their lives. All right. You got the Zidonians now coming. You got Ptolemy, who was another Edomite that used to rule over Egypt. And his people are coming too. All these people are coming against Israel, but we're coming with courage, and we're coming with belief in the Most High. These are mighty men of valor. You just saw what Simon and the people that he was with did, and seeing how Judas was mighty. You know, these are people, they knew how to fight. They knew the matter of war. All right, these are the Israelites. All right, these are black men. These are warriors. Whereupon Judas and his host turned suddenly by the way of the wilderness unto Bosora. And when he had won the city, he slew all the males with the edge of the sword, and took all their spoils, and burned the city with fire. From whence he removed by night, and went till he came to the fortress. And betimes in the morning they looked up, and behold, there was an innumerable people bearing ladders and their engines of war to take the fortress, for they assaulted them. When Judas therefore saw that the battle was begun, and that the cry of the city went up to heaven with trumpets and a great sound, he said unto his host, Fight this day for your brethren. You got a picture that's going on. They're in the fortress. You got a bunch of people going on. You've seen different war movies. This is real life. This is really actually happening. You got to picture this in your mind right now. All right. So he went forth behind them in 3 companies who sounded their trumpet and cried with prayer. All right. Because all people were spiritual people. We knew that our strength didn't rely on our spear and our buckler or in our shield, but relied on Yahawah. Because our people fought in impossible situations, but they always became victorious when we put our trust in Yahawah. Nothing could stop our people when we put our trust in Yahawah. It was the whole game was you could always count that we were gonna win it. All right, it was a wrap. And he went forth behind them in 3 companies who sounded their trumpets and cried with prayer. Then the host of Timotheus, knowing that it was Maccabeus, fled from him. Wherefore he smote them with a great slaughter, so that they were killed of them that day about 8,000 men. This done, Judas turned aside to Maphah, and after he had assaulted it, he took and slew all the males therein, and received the spoils thereof, and burned it with fire. All right. So this is our people. This is what we did, man. This is, our people were able to get victory. The Most High, under impossible situations, he even sent an angel to help us as well. I'm gonna get that, bro. I'm gonna get that. Let's see. All right. So let's get all right. So let's see. All right, so this is going on when you know, when we actually need an angel, because sometimes you get in a situation where you actually need the Most High. Okay, this is a situation to where the predicament was so intense. The battle was so on 10 that it was too much for us. We got all these different nations from different people coming against us. All right, so it says, and they pursued them the going down of Bethuran unto the plain, where they slain about 800 men of them, and the rest fled into the land of the Philistines. Then began the fear of Judas and his brethren, and an exceeding great dread to fall upon the nations round about them, and so much as his fame came unto the king, and all nations talked of the battles of Judas. All right. He says, now then Antiochus heard these things, he was full of indignation. Wherefore he sent and gathered together all the forces of his realm, even a very strong army. He hoped also his treasure, and gave his soldiers pay for a year, commanding them to be ready whensoever he would need them. Nevertheless, when he saw that the money of the treasures failed, and that the tribute of the country were small, because of the dissension and plague which he had brought upon the land, and taking away the laws which had been of old, he feared, and that he should not be able to bear the charges any longer, nor to have any gifts to give so liberally as he did before, for he had abounded above the kings that were before him. Wherefore, being greatly perplexed in his mind, he determined to go into Persia, and to take the tribute of the countries, and to gather much money. So he left Lysias, and a nobleman, one of the royal blood, to oversee the affairs of the king from the river Euphrates unto the border of Egypt, and to bring up his son Antiochus until he came again. Moreover, he delivered unto him the half of his fences and the elephants, and gave him charge of all the things that he would have done, also as also concerning them that dwelt in Judah and Jerusalem, to wit, that he should send an army against them to destroy and root out the strength of Israel and the remnant of Jerusalem, and to take away their memorial from that place, and that he should place strangers in all their quarters, and divide their land by lot. So the king took the half of the forces, and remained, and departed from Antioch, his royal city, the 147th year. And having passed the river Euphrates, he went through the high countries. Then Lysias chose Ptolemy, son of Dorymenes, Nachor, and Georgias, mighty men of the king's friends. And with them he sent 40,000 men and 7,000 horsemen to go into the land of Judah, and to destroy it, as the king's command. So they went forth all of their power, and came and pitched at Emmaus in the plain country. And the merchants of the country heard the fame of them, took silver and gold very much, with silver, with servants, and came into the camp to buy the children of Israel for slaves. A power also of Syria and of the land of the Philistines joined themselves unto them. Now when Judas and his brethren saw that the mercenaries were multiplied, and that the forces did encamp themselves in the borders, for they knew how the king had given commandment to destroy the people and utterly abolish them, they said one to another, let us restore the decayed fortune of our people, and let us fight for our people in the sanctuary. Then the congregation gathered together, and they might be ready for battle, and that they might pray and ask mercy and compassion. All right, because the Most High is very high, he's omnipotent, he's powerful. So you got to pray humbly before the Most High God of spirits, that he'll deliver you, that he'll intercede on your behalf. saying that what's going on right now is too much. Now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary also was trodden down, and aliens kept a stronghold. Heathen had their habitation in that place, and joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp ceased. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Maspah over against Jerusalem. For in Maspah there was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. And they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and ashes, and cast ashes upon their head, and rent their clothes, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. They brought also the priest's garments, and the first fruits, and the tithes, and the Nazarites they stirred up, who had accomplished their days. Then cried they with a loud voice toward heaven, saying, Shall we do with these? And whether shall we carry them away? For thy sanctuary is trodden down and profaned, and thy priests are in heaviness and brought low. And lo, the heathen are assembled together against us to destroy us. What things they imagine against us, thou knowest. How shall we be able to stand against them, except thou, O God, be our help? All right. So they cried unto the Most High God to be their help in the situation. All right, we prepared. We got a battles. You know what I'm saying? We know how to fight. We know the mechanisms of war, the different maneuvers. We know how to control a horse. We know how to carry a shield. We know how to carry a buckler. We know how to carry a sword. But right now, the situation is too much right now. So we need our God to intervene on our behalf. This is verse 54. Then sounded they with trumpets and carried with a loud voice. And after this, Judas ordained captains over the people, even captains over thousands, and over hundreds, and over fifties, and over tens. But as for such as were building houses, or had betrothed wives, or planting vineyards, or were fearful, those he commanded that they should return. Every man according to his own house, according to the law. All right, so if you're planting vineyards, if you're fearful, you can't do it now. You can't be there. If you just betrothed a wife, what I'm saying, according to Deuteronomy 24, you can't be charged with war. So they still were trying to keep to the statutes and commandments of the Most High God. All right, because that's where the blessing is going to come ultimately. Now they could have said, hey, look, man, I know you're about to marry a wife, man, but hey, the strength in numbers, you got to go. But no, they knew that their power was in the Most High, so they could do without that brother. You're fearful, you still got to fight. No, we could do without that brother. It's better to have the Most High on our side and to have a few extra brothers that are going to fight with us. All right, that's the mentality of a spiritual man. A carnal man would say the strength in numbers. All right, so you got to trust and know and they trusted and knew that the Most High was on their side when they were fighting in that battle. And they knew that he would be on their side, them keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God, Yahawah. Every man to his own house, according to the law. So they encamped, removed, and pitched upon the south of Emmaus. And Judas said, Arm yourselves and be valiant, and see that ye be in readiness against the morning. Good mornings, how ye fight with these nations that are assembled together against us to destroy us and our sanctuaries. For it is better for us to die in battle than to behold our calamities of our people and our sanctuary. Nevertheless, as the will of God is in heaven, so let him do. All right. Now that's a prayer. Hard situations going on. You know what I'm saying? So let's see what ended up happening. Let's see. let's get verse 3. Where should I start? All right, let's start at verse 20. Let's start at verse 20. 20. All right. Matter of fact, because this is a lot of stuff that's going on, just to kind of get a picture of what was going on when they were really desecrating everything we had. So let's get verse 12. Let's start there. And that it was altogether impossible that such wrong should be done unto them that had committed it to the holiest of the place, and to the majesty and inviolable sanctity of the temple, honored over all the world. But Heliodorus, because of the king's commandment given him, said that in any wise it must be brought into the king's treasury. So at the day which he appointed, he entered in to order this matter. Wherefore there was no small agony throughout the whole city, but the priests prostrating themselves before the altar, and the priest vestments called unto heaven upon them that made a law concerning things given to be kept, and they should safely be preserved for such as had committed them to be kept. Then whoso had looked the high priest in his face, it would have wounded his heart, for his countenance and the changing of his color declared the inward agony of his mind. For the man was so compassed with fear and horror of the body that it was manifest to him that looked upon him what sorrow he had now in his heart. Others ran flocking out of their houses to the general supplication, because the place was like to come into contempt. And the women girt their sackcloth under their breast, abounded in the street, and the virgins that were kept in ran, some to the gates and some to the walls, and others looked out of the window, and all holding their hands toward heaven made supplication. Then it would have pitied a man to see the falling down of the multitude of all sorts, and the fear of the high priest being in such an agony. Man. They then called upon the Almighty Lord to keep the things committed of trust safe and sure for those that had committed them. Nevertheless, Heliodorus executed that which was decreed. Now, as he was there, present himself with his guard about the treasury, the Lord of spirits and the Prince of all power caused a great apparition, so that all that presumed to come in with him were astonished at the power of God, and fainted and were sore afraid. And there appeared unto them an horse with a terrible rider upon it. All right, this is an angel. and adorned with very fair covering. And he ran fiercely and smote at Heliodorus at his forefeet. And it seemed that he had sat upon the horse, had complete harness of gold. And moreover, two other young men appeared before him, notable in strength, excellent in beauty, and comely in apparel, who stood by him on either side, and scourged him continually, and gave him many sore stripes. And Heliodorus fell suddenly and unto the ground, and was compassed with great darkness. But they that were with him took him up and put him into a litter. All right, so basically, they prayed because of what was going on, and the angel came to Heliodorus and basically beat him down. All right, this is verse 28. Thus him that lately came with a great train and with all his guard into and said treasury they carried out, being unable to help himself with his weapons, and manifestly they acknowledged the power of God, for he by the hand of God was cast down and lay speechless without all hope of life. But they praised the Lord. They praised Yahawah that had miraculously honored his own place, for the temple with a little afore was full of fear and trouble. When the Almighty Lord appeared, Yahawah appeared, was filled with joy and gladness. Then straightways certain of Heliodorus' friends prayed Onias that he would call upon the Most High to grant him his life, who lay ready to give up the ghost. So the high priest, suspecting lest the king should misconceive that some treachery had been done to Heliodorus by the Jews, offered a sacrifice for the man, for the health of the man. Now the high priest was making an atonement. The same young men in the same clothing appeared and stood by Heliodorus, saying, Give Onias the high priest great thanks, insomuch as for his sake the Lord has granted thee life. And seeing that thou hast been scourged from heaven, declare unto all men the mighty power of God. And when they had spoken these things, they appeared no more. So Heliodorus, after he had offered sacrifice unto the Lord, and made great vows unto him, and had saved his life, and saluted Onias, returned with his host to the king. Then testified he all to the men the works of the great God, which he had seen with his eyes. And when the king asked Heliodorus who might be a fit man to be sent yet once again to Jerusalem, he said, If thou hast an enemy or traitor, send him thither, that thou shalt receive him well scourged, if he escape with his life, for in that place no doubt there is an especial power of God. For he that dwelleth in heaven hath his eye on that place, and defendeth it, and he beateth and destroyeth them that come to hurt it. And the things concerning Heliodorus and the keeping of the treasury fell out on this sort. So basically what's going on, there was a war that went on. Our people cried to the Most High. The Most High heard them. He sent an angel to Heliodorus, beat him down almost to death but Onias said, lest he thinks that this is a thing that's just done by the Jews, At the Most High, let me offer sacrifice. So now, when he lives, he'll give thanks to the Most High God. The angel said, "Look, we didn't kill you because you offered that sacrifice. Now, declare the Most High's greatness because you've been given your life." So we had to do that. So this is Heliodorus declaring, "Hey, this is the Most High. I mean, I've seen him. I've seen him. I could testify that I've experienced these people's God is God. He's the great God, and that's why our fame and the testimony of it went throughout the land, and everybody knows, to some point about Hanukkah, right? Because it became famous. Okay, so let's get into the Feast of Dedication. We were able to take it back. And let's go to the next chapter right here. This is let's see. No, it's First Maccabees 456. It's the next chapter, but it's First Maccabees. All right, and so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrifice the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. And they decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold, and with shields, and with gates. And the chambers they renewed, and hanged the doors upon them. So thus was their very great gladness. All right, so you got to be glad, rejoice, give thanks, offer your prayers to the Most High God on this day, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the day of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month. All right, and as we went into before, Seselu with mirth and gladness. All right, it's the 9th day, 25th day of the 9th month. All right, so that's where that happened right there. But if you go to the dedication, this actually started. This actually was started a way of old in the Torah, but there was someone else who also kept the dedication as well, not just the Maccabees. This didn't just start in Maccabees. It wasn't the whole Feast of Dedication. That didn't start in Maccabees. All right, let's get somebody else who kept the dedication. This is Second Chronicles, chapter 7 and verse 8. Also at the same time, Solomon kept the feast 7 days, and all Israel with him, a very great congregation, from the entering in of Hamath unto the river of Egypt. And in the 8th day they made a solemn assembly, for they kept the dedication of the altar 7 days, and the feast 7 days. All right. And on the 23rd day of the 7th month, he sent the people away into their tents, glad and merry in the heart, for the goodness that Yahawah had showed unto David and to Solomon and to Israel, his people. So the reason why this is done on a different day is because when the fire went out, that's, when the fire went out of the altar, when he prayed and it consumed the altar, that's when that started the decoration of the altar, and it happened on that time. So the second decoration in Maccabees, when it was dedicated again, it happened at a different time. That's why there's not a specific time for it, because when it's rededicated, they celebrate that. Whenever it's rededicated, whatever that day is. All right? So let's get this right here. And when all the children of Israel saw that the fire came down, hold on, let me get it. So this is Solomon. He prayed a while, a prayer, and it was a great prayer. So this is Second Chronicles 7. Let's start at verse 1. When then Solomon had made an end of praying, the fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifice, and the glory of Yahawah filled the house. And the priests could not enter into the house of Yahawah, because the glory of Yahawah had filled the house. And when the children of Israel saw the fire came down and the glory of Yahawah upon the house, they bowed themselves with their faces to the ground upon the pavement, and worshipped and praised Yahawah, saying, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever. All right. So that's what, we went into, looked at Maccabees, we saw the candlesticks, that's going into the menorah, all those things. This was in this time right here. Fire came down from heaven. He kept the dedication. And let's get that in Second Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 9. Because he mentions it, because there was 2 rededications. 3 actually. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. Second Maccabees 2 and 9. All right. It was also declared that he, being wise, offered the sacrifice of dedication. All right, just like Moses did, and of the finishing of the temple. And as when Moses, so this didn't start with Solomon. As when Moses prayed to the Lord, to Yahawah, the fire came down from heaven and consumed the sacrifice. Even so, Solomon prayed also, and the fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offerings. And Moses said, because the sin offering was not to be eaten or consumed, so Solomon kept those 8 days. All right, let's go to when the fire came down from heaven in Leviticus 9:23. Start 23. And Moses and Aaron went into the tabernacle of the congregation and came out and brought the people. And the glory of Yahawah appeared unto all the people. And there came a fire from before Yahawah and consumed the burnt altar and the burnt offering and the fat, which when all the people saw, they shouted and fell on their face. So that fire kept burning, because that's why the Levites got to do their rounds, because that fire that miraculously came out of heaven represents, it's the covenant we got with the Most High. It's Him with us, with the veil, the fire burning on the altar. So when that went out, and then the altar, the Greeks did the wickedness that they did, we had to rededicate the altar again in the time of Maccabees. And the transitioning of from Shiloh to Zion, when the kingdom went from Ephraim to Judah, it was rededicated at that time. That's why Solomon did what he did. And then when the Greeks destroyed the kingdom, it was rededicated in Maccabees. That's why you got a bunch of different timelines for it. That's why there's not a specific timeline like in Leviticus 23 for that feast day, because it happened at different times. It's like in the 7th month, where it showed in Solomon, If you go into it, matter of fact, hold on, because it all goes into the tabernacle of the congregation. So it was that's where he pitched the tent. Let me get it. All right, here we go. Because the tabernacle of the congregation is when they set up for that. That's tabernacle of the congregation is when they set up the altar and everything, and they set up the veil, and everything was set up. But this is different than that day. And Yahawah spake to Moses on the first day of the first month, thou shalt set up the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation, and thou shalt put the ark of the testimony therein, and the ark without the veil. So that's when this went out. This was the first day of the first month. All right. So this is the dedication, and it was rededicated 3 times. All right, so we got to understand this history is very important because it goes into Yahawah being with us, that sanctuary that we had. Now we have it under Mashiach Yahawashi, because when he came down, the veil was rent in twain. This is very, very important to understand that, because this is our culture, this is our history. All right. Now I'm gonna get the last thing, almost done. I'm gonna go into the menorah. Let's just go a scripture about the menorah, and it just goes into, because a lot of people have the menorah where it's like people have the 9 candlesticks in the menorah, which is going off. The Most High gives specific instructions on how to do that. But the rats, aka the Jewish people, they have, they do what they do, which is always off. All right, so this is verse 30. Verse 30. I'm gonna start at verse 31. And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold, and of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. Now, if you have a golden candlestick of pure gold, that's great. But a lot of people got to do it of brass. You just have it gold. Have it made gold. Do it that way. Do the best you can, Israel, and seek him as much as you can. And his knobs and his flowers shall be of the same. The 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it, 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. 3 bowls like unto almonds, with a knob and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, with a knob and a flower. So the 6 branches that come out of the candlesticks, and in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds, with their knobs and their flowers. And there shall be a knob under the 2 branches of the same, knob under the 2 branches of the same, and of the knob under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick. So 6 branches, you got 1 candlestick, and then 3 branches on each side, is what that's saying. So their knobs and their branches shall be of the same. All it shall be one beaten work of pure gold. And thou shalt make the 7 lamps, not 9, 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. All right. So there you have it. So this is the Feast of Dedication. Give praise to the Most High. Light the menorah. Give praise to the Most High. If you just finding out that this is dedication, still light the menorah. Make sure that you have time to just light it. Just light the menorah and give praise to the Most High. Give thanks to the priest that we have in heaven. That the Most High, the Holy God sent Yahawashi to be our eternal priest in the heavens, and we give thanks to the Most High in this feast of dedication. All right. So all praises to Yahawah by Hashem, Mashiach Yahawashi. Shalom to the 12. All praises to the Most High.